were shot in front of their children. Yesterday at Kramatorsk train station, 4,000 people were waiting to be evacuated. Families fleeing the fighting. Civilians just trying to reach safety now that their home has become a living hell. The Russian military attacked them with missiles, killing 50 people, 5 of them children. Schools, universities and nurseries have been destroyed. Rape has been used as a weapon. Let's be clear, Putin has committed war crimes and we must unequivocally condemn his regime in the strongest possible terms. We're here today to tell the people of Ukraine that the Labour movement stands with them against Putin's unprovoked war. We stand with them in their struggle for democracy, for self-determination, to live their lives in peace. We're also here today to support Russians who are protesting against the war. They're risking jail and persecution for their actions, but they will go down in history as heroes. And we're also here today to hold our own government to account. Because since the start of Putin's invasion, our government has loudly proclaimed solidarity with Ukraine. But we must remember that this Tory government, for years, has been happy to take millions in donations from Russian oligarchs. That this Tory government has been happy to buy fossil fuels from dictators. And that although it claims to value democracy and human rights, these values only matter to them when it suits their agenda. But there is one particular aspect that this government should be particularly ashamed of, and that's its treatment of refugees. Home Office red tape has prevented people from reaching their loved ones, from reaching safety. It's forced people to wait weeks and weeks to seek refuge. It's about time that this government did more than just waving flags and waived visas as well. That's what that's what we do. Instead, our government has cited so-called security concerns and said that people are even pretending to be Ukrainian to get into the UK. Shame on them.
Shame.
Shame on them. Ukrainians are just like us when it suits their objective, and they're a threat to be managed when it doesn't. Well, Ukrainians are just like us, but not because of blue eyes or blonde hair or Netflix accounts or because they're European. They're just like us because they are human beings. Some Afghans just like us, Palestinians just like us, some Eritreans and Palestinians just like us, because all that separates us from them is love. So we demand that refugees are welcome here. Refugees from Ukraine, refugees from around the world, they all deserve safety. Comrades, once the headlines have moved on and once our government has lost interest, and it will, we must commit to standing in solidarity with the Ukrainian people for the long haul. Because I know that no matter how long it takes, weeks, months, years even, Putin will lose this war. The Ukrainian people will not give up until they are free. And as a Labour movement, we must stand with them every step of the way, ready to help them rebuild their country, free from the monumental debt forced on them by banks, to rebuild their democracy and to rebuild their lives. Solidarity with the people of Ukraine. Slava Ukraine!
Be proud of yourselves. We might be a small crowd here on a slow afternoon on Whitehall, but the unions represented on this demonstration represent more than 2 million people. The official support of more than 2 million workers goes right out, right now, to Ukrainian people. Be proud of yourself as well, to our Russian comrades, to the Kurdish Antifa comrades who are here somewhere, to the comrades from Hong Kong, from the democracy movement. Because what we've all got in common is what we all know, is what so many of our fellow workers and workmates and friends don't yet understand. is how bad the future is going to be if totalitarians like Putin and Lukashenko and Xi Jinping and Erdogan rule the world. Now yesterday, as Nadia said, in Kramatorsk, 50 people were killed, at least 300 injured by a cluster bomb dropped on a crowd of what we call civilians. Journalists, we reach for words to describe the victims, and civilian is the most common one we hear. But it's not enough. It's not accurate enough, because as you look at the discarded trainers and shoes and Wellingtons and little toys and battered suitcases and anoraks, there is another word: worker. So many of the victims of this war are working class Ukrainians. Why? Because Ukraine, demographically, is a country heavily full of working class people because of its history of collectivization, of mass industrialization. One Ukrainian expert said to me, look, really, it's just workers, farmers, and oligarchs, and the oligarchs legged it before the war started, many of them. So the victims of this war are workers. We know that in the labour movement. And because of that, so many of us, our instinct, when we see an armed conflict, is to demand peace. It's natural. Only we, the working class, we always pay the price of war, however it starts, whatever it's about. But when we visited with Chris and others, the miners and railway workers in Kiev 2 days before the war started, they told us of a different rationale. The miners in Donbass, which is being fought over now, when the Russian separatists took those areas, they asset stripped the mines, closed the mines down, banned the trade union, kidnapped the activists, tortured the activists, and then killed the activists. And that's why, on the morning the troops rolled into the Donbass the next time, those miners who had already fled were ringing the Kiev HQ, saying, this time we don't run away. This time we'll get our guns. We are going to fight. And so, in a war like this, our natural demand for peace, our natural fear of military action, has to take second place to the right of working class people to defend what they have. Many of these workers, they do not support Zelensky. Zelensky's party is a bit like Macron's party. It's a fiction. It's made up of technocrats and bureaucrats and a few oligarchs. The workers don't support that party. But what they say is, look, on the Ukrainian side, you can have a union. On the Russian side, not only can you not have a union, but we met people who spent 8 years dealing with the human rights aftermath of the seizure of Donbass. Rape as a weapon of war, torture, people with their eyes gouged out. This is what they told us, the story. People who've been working with those victims for years. Do you think anybody will work with the victims of rape and torture on the other side of the border when Putin settles or seizes the rest of Donbass? No, there will be no help. And for that reason, it is in the interest of working class people to support Ukraine in this war. And I know how hard that is for many of us who stood outside here in so many other wars and said, you know, screw your hypocrisy over Iraq and Afghanistan and the rest. It's hard. But the only way to get arms into the hands of the Ukrainian people right now, because we don't have them, we make them. We make them in factories all over Britain. But the only way to get them there is to keep the pressure on the government to get all the banks sanctioned properly, all the oligarchs sanctioned properly. It's a beautiful day. I've no doubt Boris Johnson is playing tennis. Let's hope it's not with a Russian oligarch. Keep the pressure on them, keep the pressure on our own movement, and do one final thing. Push back against the pressure inside the labour movement that comes from voices that I'm afraid to say have drunk the Kool-Aid of Putin is right. I'm sorry there are such people, and such people, you know, they have a right to their opinion, but what they cannot do is prevent us standing in solidarity to the Ukrainian people. So Tanya Ruck's statement that was just read out, that they made another, and I just want to quote and finish with one thing from what they said this week. It's very simple. This is a people's war. This war can transform Ukraine. And so we send them our solidarity. We say to them, comrades, keep going. We are with you. We are coming with aid. we are coming with as much as we can bring. But what we will do, the most important, is to keep the pressure on Whitehall and Westminster, because yes, there will be tough times. There'll be tough times. It's not necessarily that all the good news is going to carry on. So solidarity with the Ukrainian people, solidarity with Ukraine, solidarity with the Free Trade Union movement, and victory to Ukrainian people in their struggle against this genocidal, pathological guy in the Kremlin. Thank you.
Too right.